Wow, but in October of sports with the NHL now underway and the NBA tipping off next Tuesday, we want to help you celebrate the opening week, both on the ice and the hardwood. Every NHL daily package is only $9 through Monday, October 18th. And yes, that includes 5% NHL plays, regularly priced at $35. For you NBA fans, we'll be offering the same incredible deal next week when basketball returns. From opening night through Monday, October 25th, get every NBA package for only $9, including all 5% top plays. Plus, don't forget that WagerTalk TV will again be airing both Puck Time and the NBA Tip-Off Show every Monday through Friday.
All right, guys, happy Friday. Welcome in. Time for another edition of College Football Daily, powered by WagerTalk.com. Week 7 of the college football season. It is upon us. Had a couple of games last night to wet the whistle a little bit. We got a few more here tonight. Then, of course, a loaded card on Saturday. And we're here to break 4 games down for you with 3 of our favorites here. The Friday crew in the house, including Steve Merril hitting leadoff. Rob Veno right in that heart of the order, and nobody better to hit cleanup than Mr. Dave Cokin in the house. And Merril, I'll come to you because it's been a hell of a week, a lot going on. We got the NBA just around the corner next week between the NFL, college, Major League Baseball playoffs. You've been a busy little bee here, my friend. What's going on?
Yeah, we have 5 full weeks of college and pro football in the month of October. That's good enough. And then the NBA starts earlier, starts this coming Tuesday. Hockey just started. And, of course, the baseball goes a little longer into November. Pretty good time to be an all-sports, all-access subscriber at WagerTalk.com. By the way, if you like football only, nothing wrong with that. I've got a comedy promo right now. You get 2 sports for the price of 1, both college and pro football for a full 30 days for just $149 with promo code COMBO30, COMBO30, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
Combo 30, it is. All right. Rob Veno, what's going on, my man? How was your week been treating you? And what's new and exciting, man? What's happening?
Yeah, the week's been a little bit quiet because I haven't played a lot, Joe. Baseball's been really, really good this week and overall. Since the All-Star break, baseball's been up 67% ROI, so it's been really, really good. Active in tonight's playoffs, game 1 between Boston and Houston. That play is up and available right now at WagerTalk.com. There is a 4% best bet in college football for Saturday action up and available right now at WagerTalk.com. So those are all available. NFL's been good. I'll add that in there, Joe. 22-12 run in NFL action. So things are going pretty good right now. Last weekend was really, really nice.
It's good times. All right, keeping the ball rolling here. And Dave, I know you are locked and loaded here this weekend. Got some plays in college that you like. And let us not forget another 5% best bet in the NFL on Sunday for you. You won your first one of the season last Sunday with the Titans. You're locked and loaded for another one. 28-9, guys, over the last 2 years on 5% best bets. They don't come often. When they do, they cash. What else you got going on there, Dave?
And that was actually my second of the NFL season last weekend. I had the Browns as a 5% play in week 1 against the Chiefs, and they lost but covered the entire game. And then last Sunday used the Titans. It was not as much a play on the Titans as it was a fade of the Jaguars and Urban Meyer, and it worked out pretty well. And I do have a 5% play for Sunday in the NFL. Again, this has that little extra something that I like to have on my top plays, kind of an intangible, I guess you could call it that, and it fits into this game. Bunch of college football. Actually, nothing tonight. I didn't play anything tonight. I'm not playing the baseball game. I didn't find anything in the 3 NHL games. Kind of a light lean of the Anaheim Ducks, but not enough to play it. But there's going to be plenty tomorrow, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, there certainly is. Loaded weekend, all weekend, Saturday and Sunday, but we're going to start here breaking down a game in the ACC, which is proving to be pretty interesting. Show us here, Robert. I can't wait for this game. Pitt taking on Va Tech there, 3:30 Eastern time on Saturday tomorrow, guys. Pitt opening up 4.5-point favorites on the road. Total is 58. And boy, oh boy, this is going to go a long way to deciding who's going to play in at least one half of that ACC championship game there down the road, Steve. Who do you like in this matchup?
Well, my power ratings only favor Pitt by 3.5, and currently they're about a 5-point favorite. So the line is a little bit high, but my concern with Virginia Tech, obviously, in this one is how they respond after that Notre Dame near miss last week. And we always talk about letdowns after big wins, but I really think letdowns often happen more after tough losses, especially high-scoring losses. And that was a 32-29 close game, a game that Tech could have won. Now they have to turn right around and play another big game. Now they do get to stay home for the third straight week, and they had a bye in between. So they haven't traveled for over a month. So they should be pretty comfortable here. But this is a really good Pitt offense. I mean, not a surprise that Pitt is a perfect 5-0 to the over this year in their 5 games. Their offense is averaging 52.5 points a game. This is a team that's consistently put up 41 or more in all 5 games this season. And then we look at Tech, 24 points, 4.9 yards per play. To put that in perspective, Pitt is averaging 7.2 yards per play offensively. And both defenses give up 5.2. So Pitt is the better team, and it's a potentially bad spot for Virginia Tech. The problem is the line is inflated. My power ratings only make it 3.5, and currently it is 5.
Yeah, Rob, they've been, Vodtech has had some issues here. Defense, they've been pretty good, only giving up around 18 points a game here. But when you think of Pitt, my mind usually goes to defense, but boy, oh boy, this kid Pickett, he can throw the ball. What do you think we're going to see here over the weekend?
Yeah, they've been a pass-heavy team as far as yardage is concerned, Joe. It's funny, when you go over the play calling for Pat Narduzzi's team, the play calling has been pretty balanced and tips somewhat to the run. They've run 52% of the time, only thrown at 48. But when you get into the total yardage, that's where the numbers are, because 70% of their yardage is through the air. They're the number 4 passing team in the nation. There's been more than a couple lightweights on their schedule. And if you consider the timing of when they played Tennessee, I think it was second game of the season when Tennessee looked like they were in disarray. You could say that Pitt's really only played one decent team, and that team would be Georgia Tech. So, the jury's out on how great they are here. It does look like it's a decent matchup. I'm with Steve. Power ratings showed that this line is certainly padded excessively towards Pittsburgh. I don't know about the letdown, though. There's a lot of cases on the card this week where you can use letdown. There's multiple teams in that situation. But here, this is a Coastal Division matchup. Both of these teams are 1-0 inside the ACC Coastal. Whichever one wins could create some separation in that division, which is an absolute mess since North Carolina decided they weren't going to show up the first half of the season. So I think it's a huge importance to both sides. I don't see the letdown coming here. Listen, if you're Virginia Tech, you're pretty good at stopping the run. We've talked about it, though. You got to get to Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett threw for 404 against them last year. But I kind of throw that in the garbage because Virginia Tech's secondary from the first game on had COVID problems. That secondary had a bunch of freshmen in it. So I don't know that same secondary shows up here. I think they'll do a little bit better. You got to sack this quarterback. Since they got 6 against UNC in the first week, they've only had 9 since. But you know what? They've only seen 116 pass attempts. So that's 1 every 12.8. That's not a bad number. You got to get to this quarterback. On the other side of the ball, Joe, they need to run. Virginia Tech's got to run the football because that's what their bread and butter is. Pitt's been decent at stopping the run. If you weed the sack yardage out, they're giving up about 4.3 a carry. Pittsburgh under Narduzzi has been a great quarterback pressure team. Seemingly, they're always toward the top of the numbers, top of the nation in sack numbers. They're there again with 18 of those. You could make a lot of statistical arguments for Pitt, but I have a gut feeling that Virginia Tech plays this thing closer than the number indicates right now. I am not a big Braxton Burmeister fan, so it pains me to have to give a slight lean to Virginia Tech.
It's hurting, but he did it anyway. And Dave, what have you thought about this Pitt team? There are some folks pretty high on them, including the marketplace. What do you think about them?
Well, they're off a great game against Georgia Tech. I mean, they just beat the crap out of Georgia Tech, and they've had 2 weeks to savor that victory. They got help in that game, though. Georgia Tech was really, really awful in that game. So it was a combination of the Panthers playing well, probably their best game of the season, and Georgia Tech not playing well. I think you could argue, at least at the time, their worst game of the season. I think Pittsburgh's getting overrated a little bit. Let's throw out the UMass game because UMass can't play. They barely beat Tennessee, and you can argue that had it not been for I'm blanking on the kid's name for Tennessee, who was the quarterback at the time, but he was not good in that game. Tennessee could have won that game, and they're a better team now than they were then. They lose to Western Michigan. I mean, Western Michigan's not the worst team of all time, but Western Michigan's not supposed to go into Pittsburgh and win. They beat New Hampshire by 70, which doesn't matter. Outside of the Georgia Tech game, and again, they got help, I think they're getting overrated off that. The flip side is I'm not all that wild about Virginia Tech. And Rob just hit on the key. It's Burmeister, who's, he's a game manager more than anything. He's not going to win games for you. I don't think it's necessarily a bad spot for Virginia Tech because it would have been nice for them to beat Notre Dame, but in the big picture, what did that game really mean to Virginia Tech? I think the conference games are more important. And by the way, Pittsburgh's not as good as Notre Dame. So it's not that horrible a loss, in my opinion. I can't come up with a real strong side here. I think Pittsburgh is maybe peaking, but they have not been a team that has done well in clutch games under Narduzzi. And I'm just not really sold on Virginia Tech. My numbers say the number's a bit high, so I guess we're all in agreement there. If I had to bet it, I guess I'd take Virginia Tech, but boy, I'm sure glad I don't have to bet it. While Joe's making a microphone adjustment, we'll take some time out to talk about how the Boston Red Sox should win everything in baseball because they're my favorite team. I can't give you a good reason outside of that, but I think it's destiny. It's destiny for the Red Sox. By the way, that call last night, and I want to make this real quick. I'll get you guys in on this real quick. Look, Wilmer Flores is 0 for 17 lifetime against Max Scherzer. He's down 0-2 on the count.
Exactly.
He's probably going to make it out.
Exactly.
But you can't end a series on that. That was such a terrible way to end that series. I mean, and you never know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of stuff today on the internet. Well, he's 0 for 17 and he was down on the count. Well, yeah, but there's a reason they play. I mean, we just talked about Pittsburgh and Western Michigan. Okay, Pittsburgh's supposed to beat Western Michigan every time they play, but they didn't. You never know what's going to happen. Wilmer Flores might have gotten a single, and the game might have kept on going. You can't end games on calls like that. Sorry, but while you were looking for a microphone, I decided to go on a rant.
I did. And I do think it was Joe Milton, that quarterback for Tennessee. That also, I think, is who it was. Yeah, Heupel's buddy there. All right, batteries. Lovely. Thank you, Duracell. All right, guys, let's move on. Game number 2 here that we are going to break down. We're going to head to the SEC and talk about that very team, I believe. Let's go, Tennessee taking on Ole Miss. This game opens up -3 for Ole Miss. The total might as well be 200 at this friggin' point with these two teams, the way they can score. 7:30, a little late kickoff here. Tennessee, Ole Miss. What do you think here, Rob Veno? Ole Miss coming off of one of the most exciting games of the year here against Arkansas. Tennessee, I don't know, starting to get into gear here. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, 7:30, which I guess would be, I'm not sure. Knoxville might still be Eastern time. In fact, I think they are Eastern time. So 7:30 gives, those 109, 110,000 plenty of time to get lathered up for this one, right? And the stands should be absolutely on fire for this game. you probably, if you sit there and watch this game, you'll get tired watching it because Josh Heupel against Lane Kiffin figures to be, 160 total plays and up and down the field. Tennessee's come on real well as of late, especially rushing the football. Now, Missouri, they're the 130th ranked run defense. Maybe Tennessee got the benefit of that in that game, but still, you can see the improvements in these guys, especially when Hendon Hooker. Dave talked about Joe Milton not being very good. Thank goodness that decision has been made in the right way. Hendon Hooker, Virginia Tech transfer, dual threat quarterback, has shown to be a better leader of this offense and productivity. So I like that move there. For Ole Miss, I don't want to keep throwing this letdown around because I don't even like the term letdown. It's kind of lack of focus, but you wonder, Mississippi comes off Alabama and Arkansas, and now they travel. I know they're well-conditioned guys, but I wonder about them late in this game. If this game is close against Tennessee, that'd be something situational to look at here. Last week, they gave up 676 yards to Arkansas and still won the game by a point. They got 611, but in the last 2 weeks, they've given up 1,027 yards. So it's hard to say that this is going to be anything but offense, and offense again. Total at 81. I think I looked before and saw Ole Miss has exceeded that total twice already this year. Tennessee, I think the same twice. So they can make 81 look small. I'm not in the habit of betting over 81, so I won't. I don't know that I want to lay 5 with Ole Miss, although I do think when push comes to shove, Matt Corral is more apt to make a big play than is Tennessee's Hendon Hooker, even though they're both going to have a lot of success here. Probably, Joe, if I was forced to, I would go ahead and play Ole Miss and lay 5, but that would be about as weak a play as I could give because I think Tennessee's really coming on pretty strong for a team that got decimated. And I mean decimated by the transfer portal. You look around the country and you see all their star players playing for other teams. Josh Heupel's done a really good job in half a season.
Yeah, well, and they can run the ball too, Dave. Tennessee's got a pretty good running attack also, combined with 100 plays a minute. Who's the best offense on the field? Is it Ole Miss in your mind?
Yeah, by a little bit. Just piggybacking on something Rob said, it's one of those rare occasions, really, where I think all those kids transferring out might have actually benefited Tennessee. I mean, the program was a complete screw-up the last couple of years. Just problems within the coaching staff, an AD who just wasn't getting it done. It was just a cluster, you know what. And it's pretty clear to me they've gotten a fresh start, and they're really picking up on what's going on, and we're getting back to seeing some great Tennessee football again. The game's better when Tennessee's a good team, because that is one of the best home fields in football. The atmosphere is incredible. And I think it's just going to be crazy for this Saturday night game. Look, Tennessee's offense has been way better since Hooker went under center. He's not making mistakes. He's managing the game well. He's dangerous with his legs. He's making good throws. Corral is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I know he got shut down in that first half against Alabama, but I mean, he is clearly one of the best guys out there. And by the way, he still hasn't thrown a pick this year. 12-0, I believe, is the touchdown interception ratio. The two offenses are clearly better than the two defenses. And total open 78, and nobody's been shy about betting it up. And I don't disagree with that. I won't play it because I'm not going to just give away 3 or 4 points from where the number was. But I think this game, honestly, it looks like first team to 50 wins. So I think this might be a game where if you're going to take a shot watching the game and want some amusement action, I'd go with the over. I think it's going to be that high scoring.
It should be certainly another entertaining game here, Steve Merril. We just got one from Ole Miss and Arkansas. And impressive, right? Arkansas's defense is no slouch. It's pretty impressive what they did against that defense. But when it comes down to it, somebody's got to make a stop, or do they here? Which defense do you trust?
Well, I don't want to risk offending Rob Veno, but I called the Arkansas Ole Miss game last week the letdown bowl. Which team would be more flat after the Georgia-Alabama losses? But, Rob, I do agree with you. I don't think letdown's the best term. I think flat is probably the best term because, like you said, a lot of times the teams are a little, worn down emotionally, physically, and this does not look like a good spot for Ole Miss. Not only because they had a 52-51 back-and-forth shootout last week against Arkansas, but because they also had that Alabama game beforehand. They've got LSU and Auburn on deck. Not that they're going to overlook Tennessee, but it's probably the least big of the 5 games that they've had before and after. So I think you have to be concerned with that. As far as the line value, my power ratings make Ole Miss exactly a 2.5-point favorite. The line is sitting 2.5 right now. So if it goes to 3 or more, yes, that's only a half-point move, but there's a 9 to 10% chance Ole Miss wins by exactly 3 mathematically. So I think at 3 or more, you can start making a case for Tennessee. Obviously, a live underdog with that offense. It's averaging 42 points a game. Ole Miss is averaging 46 a game. That gets us to 88 right there. It's like everyone else has been saying, 82 might not be high enough. Ole Miss is average at best defensively. They were terrible last year. They were better this year, but now we're starting to wonder about that, right? Because they've given up 93 points the last 2 weeks. Once again, first one to 50 wins this one. I think at 3 or more, there's some value with the dog, and the over would be the only way to play the total, even at 82.
And which team can actually run the ball a little bit, chew up some of that clock there, and maybe give the defense a breather. Probably going to play a big role.
The thing is that both teams play so fast. Running the ball doesn't really chew up the clock at all. I mean, they run the ball and then they're up there running the next play. I mean, these two teams play at warp speed. So I don't think that running the clock is that's just not an issue. It's whether anybody can stop anybody.
That is still debatable if it even happened. How many punts over or under, Merril? 2? What are we?
So you don't lose unless there's 3. I'll take under 2. Yeah, 2.5. A little tougher. Yeah.
Love it. All right, guys, that's game number 2 here. Let's move on to the third game. We'll head to the Big Ten. This ain't going to be fast.
No.
Yep, Michigan State taking on Indiana. Traveling a little bit, opens up at 3.5 for Michigan State, a little road favorite. Total is 52. This is going to be a noon kickoff on Saturday. And Dave, I'll come to you. Indiana just can't stop anybody on the run. And boy, oh boy, they're going to have their hands full with this running attack from Michigan State.
Yeah, look, Michigan State's on a roll. They're 6-0. I didn't play it, but I thought last week, boy, that might be a difficult spot at Rutgers. It wasn't. They dominated the football game, won by a pretty big margin. They haven't beaten a lot of quality teams yet, but still, I mean, they beat the crap out of Miami on the road. They probably should have lost to Nebraska, but they didn't. So anything you want to argue against Michigan State, the counter is that, yeah, but they keep on winning. And I think that's big here because from a spot perspective, I kind of like the Indiana side here. But everything's going right for Michigan State, including the way this sets up in terms of what Indiana's going to have in the field. The Hoosiers have not played real good football, to put it mildly. Now, I remember going back to the beginning of the season and talking about this Indiana team when we were doing Big Ten previews, and it's like, man, their schedule is just horrific, and it's taken its toll. At Iowa, they had the walkover against Idaho, but then Cincinnati, at Western Kentucky, which is no pushover, and then at Penn State. They're just not a team I want to be on right now. And what makes matters worse is that as much as Michael Penix has been struggling, and he's been pretty bad. Clearly, he's not healthy. So now he's out. That means Jack Tuttle. And there's just, I don't know how else to put it. I'm not backing Jack Tuttle. Okay, I know he came out of high school with accolades. Looked like he might be a guy who'd be a real good college quarterback. It hasn't worked out. And I just don't see him as a guy who can spearhead an offensive attack against what is a solid Michigan State defense. Indiana does not run the ball particularly well. I don't know where they're going to get their points from. So, I mean, I don't want to play Michigan State in this spot. I think it's close on the power ratings, but Spartans the only way I could play. They're the team on the roll. Indiana's the team not on the roll, and I have a feeling it's going to get worse for Indiana. I think Indiana could be. I'm not going to say they're not going to win any more games, but it's, they got Ohio State and they're at Maryland, at Michigan. Rutgers is not an automatic. Minnesota is certainly not an automatic, and they're at Purdue. This team's not going back to a bowl. And I wonder if the bleak outlook might start to factor in here. I think I'd only have to be able to play Michigan State in this game.
It's interesting, Steve, the spot, too, for Michigan State, right? Michigan on deck, Indiana coming off the bye. How much faith do you have that they're going to keep the focus on what's going to happen on the road here in Indiana?
Yeah, I mean, normally on the surface, you say your quarterback is out, it's bad, but I mean, it can't be much worse. And they've had the bye week with the new guy coming in, Tuttle. I think it could be an upgrade, So if anything, that could be the catalyst to turn things around. Indiana was not a good offensive team last year. They got that 6-2 straight up record was obviously a little misleading. Keep in mind, the Big Ten had a lot of problems last year. Wisconsin, Penn State, Michigan, all playing, vastly better. And I know Wisconsin's not winning, but they're still a good team. They're all playing better this year. Indiana took advantage of that. They were exposed by Iowa in week 1, something I thought would happen. I mentioned that on my top 25 video back in week 1. I thought there was value with the Iowa Hawkeyes. So Indiana is a 500 team at best, in my opinion. They're below average offensively. They're above average defensively. So the quarterback switch might actually help them. I'm not going to try to guess if it will. So I'm going to take a wait and see approach. Wouldn't surprise me, though, if that happens. Power ratings only favor Michigan State by about 3 points in this game. That's without adjusting too much, though, for the QB situation. Current line is 4.5. So the line is inflated, but for good reason. This is a good Michigan State team. They're 6-0 straight up. They're 5-1 against the number. So they've been a real moneymaker for backers this year. Indiana, by the way, 1-4 against the spread. So huge dichotomy, and that's one of the reasons the line is a little inflated. But Michigan State, almost 600 yards of offense last week against Rutgers, despite only scoring 31 points. They really moved the ball well. They're averaging 7.5 yards per play, almost 10 yards per pass. Indiana, I'm just not sure Indiana can keep up with them. And it's not like this is a 2 or 3 touchdown spread. We're talking about 4.5. So Michigan State on paper at least looks like the much better team. But that home dog off a bye week, some things fishy always happen with that extra time to prepare. We'll see how that plays out.
Absolute beast behind there. He's really the engine that makes it go for Michigan State. Nebraska did a pretty good job of limiting his damage. It was a lower scoring game. Do you think Indiana can do the same?
I don't think it matters anymore, Joe. I mean, you go back to the Miami of Florida game, and in that game was like nothing into the second quarter when Peyton Thorne, the quarterback for MSU, started hooking up with his high school buddy Jaden Reed at wide receiver, and they showed you at that point that they're going to be more than a run offense, that they were balanced. I think we had the Michigan State game on this show last week that we went over it, and they showed that balance again. It wasn't Jaden Reed this time. It was Jalen Naylor, the other wide receiver. These two guys showed flashes last year. They're deep threats, they're home run threats, and it just adds to what they can do with Kenneth Walker the third, as you mentioned, running the football. So I don't know if Indiana sells out to stop Walker. I don't think that means they stop Michigan State, because then they'll just pass them silly. I don't know that Indiana has enough of a pass rush to get to Peyton Thorne. They look like a well-oiled offensive machine at this point in time. If any team needed a bye week last week, it was Indiana. They needed to stop, take a breath. Holy crap, our preseason expectations are not only slipping away, they're probably gone at this point in time. Let's regroup, get into Big Ten action, see what we can do. Jack Tuttle, more of a pocket passer. Penix, obviously, the dual threat. Tuttle doesn't really bring that to the table, but he's had 2 weeks worth of snaps with the starters now in practice, and maybe it shows up on the field as a little bit better looking of an offense. They've got weapons, guys. Ty Freifogel on the outside is a very good wide receiver. Peyton Hendershot's an NFL tight end, so they got the weapons. And I think Michigan State has defensive weaknesses. For all their offensive accolades, let's just start with the fact that they're a terrific pass rush team. If Indiana doesn't protect Tuttle, case closed. They win the game, they cover. It's not even close. Michigan State has 22 sacks already this year. 20 of those are against FBS teams, so they're not skewed. However, when you weed that sack yardage out of the numbers in rushing, this rush defense allows 5 yards a carry. Stephen Carr came over from USC. I thought he was going to help Indiana's running game. It hasn't really happened so far, but 5 yards a carry is 5 yards a carry. And Michigan State, as Dave pointed out, hasn't played a who's who of world beaters list. So maybe Indiana can get a little something established on the run. Then if I get into their pass defense is even worse. 336 passing yards a game allowed to FBS teams. That's crazy. Rutgers threw for 267, 54 better than their average. Nebraska 252. Northwestern, of all people, threw for 283. That's 73 yards over their average. And Miami almost threw for 400, 388. So Jack Tuttle, if there's anything they can do, it might be made through the air as well. For these reasons, guys, I look toward the over, excuse me. You know, we've been talking about lines that are padded the other way and where there's value. This game has been pushed from 52 all the way to 48.5 because of Jack Tuttle, right? No Michael Penix Jr. Got to bet the under, Michigan State could score 35 in my mind against anybody right now. If they do that, Indiana needs 14. You cash your ticket. I think this total is just a little bit too low. When I look at their games played so far this season, Indiana played Cincinnati, which is 10 times the defense Michigan State is, and that game hit 62. Indiana scored points in that game. So the other side has been over this number 3 times already, 48.5. They've been way over. I think over is a pretty good play here, just out of value.
Just on the value. All right. Way too much overreaction towards the under, says Rob Veno. Well, I can't wait to hear what you guys got to say about this next game. The mother of all letdown spots. Here it is, Robert. I mean, A&M traveling to Mizzou here to take on a little SEC matchup in Columbia. It opens up A&M 9.5. We're seeing here total of 60.5 as an open. And Steve, it really is. It's the mother of all letdown spots for an A&M team that upended Alabama just a week ago. Question is, how much faith do you have in Missouri to truly keep this thing close?
The politically correct term is flat spot, as you know, Joe, not letdown. Flat spot. We can't say letdown. But this actually is more of a letdown because you're coming off a big double-digit underdog win, as a 2-touchdown dog, and now you're going as more than a touchdown road favorite. You go from a 2-touchdown home dog to more than a touchdown road favorite. Distraction spot, flat spot, letdown spot, and you're coming off a very physical Alabama team. That's something else. Back in the 70s and 80s, the Steelers, teams that played the Steelers and the Raiders in the NFL always had bad spread records. There is something to that. So the question is, can Texas A&M stay focused? I don't think it matters on offense because anybody can be focused against this Missouri defense. So let's put in perspective how bad this Missouri defense is. They gave up 62 to Tennessee a couple weeks ago, gave up 35 to North Texas last week. Drew Martin and I were doing the Every Game on the Board podcast. I know Rob was on there later, and I had North Texas in that first quadrant, not by choice. And I think they hadn't scored more than like 17 in any other game this year. They put up 35 on Missouri. So, that puts things in perspective here. So I think A&M will get their points. Where I do think the letdown, the distractions often happen is on defense. Because first of all, if you are fatigued, you're a little bit slower. Big plays can happen. And also, the letdown happens during the week in practice. It's a lack of focus for your coming opponent. So that means the defense isn't quite as prepared. So I think Missouri will get some in this game. They average 38 points a game. I'm not going to lean towards Missouri and play against A&M because that could have been a breakout game for A&M. My power ratings actually favored them by 10.5. This line was 8.5, 9 when I did it on WagerTalk today, Wednesday. Now it's 10.5 in a lot of spots. So it's right on my power ratings. The line has crossed that key number. I don't really see much value with the side one way or the other. Missouri, by the way, has not covered 9 straight games, going back to the last 3 games last year and all 6 games this year. They're on an 0-9 point spread slide. So I'm not going to play them, even with Rob Veno's money. But I think the over 59.5 is a pretty cheap price for a team that just gave up 62 points a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, averaging 37 and a half a game is what this Mizzou defense has given up. And Dave, you've talked about Calzada in the past over the last couple of weeks. Not a lot of faith. Played the best game so far this year. Last week, what confidence do you have he can repeat that performance?
Oh, he can repeat that performance here because Missouri can't stop anything. That's the worry. Look, obviously that's a huge win for A&M last week. And I'm not going to argue against the fact that it's going to be tough for them to get really fired up to play what is a struggling Missouri team. And if they look, I'm sure they've looked at game film on Missouri, and that's not going to scare them at all. So it's a difficult spot in terms of the energy level for Texas A&M. The problem is Missouri just can't stop anything. I mean, they are a terrible defensive football team. And Calzada, excuse me, Calzada could have another good game here. And the A&M running game is certainly capable of doing some damage here. It didn't have look, they didn't do much against Alabama, but not too many teams do. They should do better here. Missouri's a team that I don't think I can play on Missouri the rest of the season. I've seen them play a few times, and I'm just not impressed. Their defense, look, to me, the only way their defense is going to get better is that they take that Truman the Tiger mascot and actually turn him into a real tiger and put him on the field. It's just a mascot. I don't think there is a real tiger. So I don't want Missouri. I know the spot favors them, but I don't want any part of Missouri. The quarterback is nothing more than a game manager. They've got the one real good running back, and he's the best player on the team. But A&M knows that, and they're going to take him away. I think A&M finds a way to cover this game. They might start off slowly, but I think by the fourth quarter, the physicality of A&M is probably going to take its toll on a Missouri team that's kind of soft. And I think A&M, if you want Missouri, I'd play them in the first half. Full game, I'd lean toward A&M.
Okay, good stuff. And Rob, how about you? How would you approach this? Are you worried about A&M in the flat spot here, or do you think it's just going to be there's nothing defensively Missouri's going to do anyway to intimidate them one way or the other?
Yeah, I mean, as the father of a son who graduated University of Missouri, there's some sort of allegiance there, but obviously it doesn't go this far, that allegiance. And to Dave's point, I have actually shook hands with Truman the Tiger at a parents' weekend game. So he's a pretty good guy. At least that version of Truman was.
And lived to tell about it.
That's right.
And lived to tell about it. Listen, I agree with just about everything these guys said. I can enhance a couple of points that they made. To Steve's point about his power ratings, he said his came 10.5, mine came A&M -11. So up until about 12:40 this afternoon Eastern time, there was still value in A&M. And that number went from 8.5 to 10, and then to 10.5 at a prominent offshore, like the way a snowplow comes down your street and gets rid of the snow in 5 minutes. It was crazy. So there's a lot of afternoon action on this A&M side. It's made it a little more difficult to bet A&M. 8.5 is a lot easier to swallow than 10.5 is. But where the letdown is concerned, again, we're all sports bettors. We never blanket statement anything. I know I don't. And this letdown, and again, it's another one of many that are on the card. My theory has always been, if you're in a supposed letdown spot, but you can come to a place and just hand the ball off and win a game by a margin, then there's no letdown. The numbers that Mizzou has led up on the ground are astounding. 130 in the nation, but they gave up 294 rushing yards to Southeast Missouri State. To Steve's point about North Texas last week, Missouri had that team blown out. And UNT scores 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to go ahead and cover that game. Missouri bettors probably ripped every hair out of their head watching that final score, as UNT just went down 3 straight drives and scored. BC 275, Tennessee 458, North Texas themselves 188 last week. Isaiah Spiller and Devon Achane can have their way here. And as Dave said, they couldn't run the football last week. What a step down in class as far as rush defense is concerned. I mean, they're going to see holes. You watch that Tennessee game. Those holes were unbelievably wide. It'll happen again. I think the question is, to one of these guys made the point about will A&M's defense, come to play? Hopefully they do. I kind of view that win last week, guys, as the opposite of letdown. I kind of view it as I don't know, I'll call it rebirth of A&M and those preseason expectations. All of a sudden, Jimbo can point to the second half of the season. If they had lost that game last week, they're going to like the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. You can forget anything else. So there's a big second half for them. This is a good team to start it with. I don't want any part of Missouri's defense. You can probably play overs in Missouri games rather easily. We just talked about Tennessee, Ole Miss, and who's going to stop who. Mizzou will let A&M hand off and get to 45. So it's got to be A&M or nothing, although the point spread now doesn't thrill me the way 8.5 did earlier this morning.
I am, just for a record, guys, I am seeing 5.5 for A&M in the first half. I'm seeing a total of 30 in the first half and 59.5 total for the game. So if you'd rather trust the side one way or the other, maybe that's the best way to look at this game. All right, guys, that's 4 games we broke down for you. Time to, of course, take a look here at all 4 and see which one of them these gentlemen might be leaning towards a little bit more than the others. And, Merrill, I'll come to you, all right? I don't want to hear about any letdown spots. Tell us, where are you going, flat spot? Where are you going? Which game are you leaning towards?
No, we're going to have a positivity note here, and that's combo 30, Joe Raineri. That gets you college and pro football 2 for 1. Normally it's 149 for college, 149 for NFL. Rob Veno goes, I can't decide. I go, you get them both for 149, Rob Veno.
Yeah.
Combo 30, COMBO30, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, a full 30 days football for 149. Hey, we just talked about this one, short-term memory, so I'm going to say it again while the notes are in my head. Over 59.5 between Missouri and Texas A&M. I do think it's a potential flat spot for A&M. If it shows, though, it's going to be on the defensive side of the ball. That's where you come a little flat, I believe. And Missouri can move the ball offensively, especially some backdoor late action. One thing is certain, though, even if A&M barely shows up offensively, they'll put up 40-plus against a terrible Missouri defense. Over 59.5, a Missouri team that gave up 62 alone 2 weeks ago to Tennessee.
All right, love it. There you go. Make sure you check it out, guys. Combo 30. Visit Steve's page there. It's basically buy one, get one. College football, NFL for 30 days. Rob Veno, talk to me, my friend, of these games. Which one might you be leaning towards a little more than the others?
Yeah, I mean, before I get into giving out my best bet, can I just remove myself from this Hollywood Square section that I'm in and let the promotional machine that is Steve Merril sit in my spot and say some nice things about me and come buy my packages too? I don't have the fancy combo numbers, I don't think. I'll ask the head office about that, but I need some of this stuff to talk about. Steve, you're the best at that, buddy. You can spend my money on your package. I'll authorize that. I'm going to go to the deep end of the value pool, guys, what I consider to be the deep end of the value pool, and take the Michigan State-Indiana game over. I just think that thing's been pushed down too far. It gives us a lot of numbers back. You get 49 and 51 especially in any 28-23, 31-20, however you want to make 51 up. Michigan State can score on anybody right now. It's a diverse offense. I don't think Indiana, even with 2 weeks, has answers to stop them. But I do think that the 2 weeks might help them a little bit offensively. Jack Tuttle, again, the number 2 quarterback doesn't generally get a lot of snaps with the ones. He's now had 2 weeks with the ones. Maybe there's a little more timing and rhythm here. We'll see what kind of game plan they've put together for this game. They probably miss Kalen DeBoer as offensive coordinator on this team. I mean, if they had DeBoer, I'd probably be even happier to play over. But I think there's value in this number, so I'm going to play over 48.5 as the best bet.
I'm going to have to look at Michigan State's team total there, too. You're talking me into it, Veno. Some people need no promotion, all right? Everyone knows, Rob. I'm just going to say that. Everybody knows there. All right, Dave, I do want to remind you guys quickly, though, Dave's 5% NFL best bet, locked and loaded. Got some college games up there as well over at WagerTalk.com. So, Dave, of these 4 games, which one might you lean towards a little more than the others?
Well, it looks like and the one that's going to be the highest scoring, well, it's reflected in the total that's been put on the game between Tennessee and Ole Miss. But I just don't see how anybody's going to get stops in this game. If the offenses don't beat themselves, in other words, Corral and Hooker don't make mistakes, put the ball on the ground or throw it to the other team. I wasn't joking when I said first team to 50 wins. I think this game's going to be about 90 points by the time it's all said and done. And it'll be fun to watch because it's a Saturday night game, national TV, over. Ole Miss and Tennessee. Your mic's off again, Joe. What are you trying to do a Marceau thing here or something like that?
Like a French mime.
That's some of the worst miming I've ever seen. You got to be doing stuff with your hands to make it.
Plus,
work.
isn't he supposed to have like white paint all over him and a black French beret?
Well,
and
that
all
would
that
actually be
stuff,
an improvement for Joe if he had paint all over his face.
He's been in Florida too. He's been in Florida too long to be that pale. I don't want to hear
from either of you. I'm done with you. I'm done with Duracell. I'm done with everybody when it comes to batteries. All right, real quick, guys, just a rundown all week long here. The best bet recap across the board starting on Tuesday. Tony Mejia and Brian Leonard joined us. Wednesday, Rob Veno, Drew Martin, and Ralph Michaels. Yesterday, we had Teddy and Ralph. And, of course, today, you see it, Steve Merril, Rob Veno, Dave Cokin, guys. Opportunities galore to make it a very profitable weekend. College football, NFL. It starts by heading over. Combo 30 for Mr. Steve Merril, NFL, and, of course, college football, 30 days. Rob Veno's best bets ready to go. I will say this, too, about Rob, because he won't. NBA around the corner, guys. You will find nobody more profitable at WagerTalk than Rob Veno in the NBA. That is coming up. Get ready for it. And Dave Cokin, go get his 5% best bet, guys. Sunday in the NFL, 28-9 over the last 2 years and 5% best bets. They don't come around often. So when they do, head over to WagerTalk.com, grab yourself that, and let's make it a profitable weekend. On behalf of Steve Merril, Rob Veno, Dave Cokin, hit that bell in the upper right-hand corner before my microphone goes out again. Make sure you have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself. Best of luck, guys. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for stopping by.
Thousands of you enjoyed the NHL opening week $9 special, so it's only fair that we offer the NBA fans the same deal. Every NBA daily package for the opening week through Monday, October 25th is just $9. That's right, you will not be paying $25 for a package, nor will you be paying $35 for 5% best bets for the opening week of the NBA, as all daily basketball packages are only $9. Make sure to tune in every Monday through Friday for the NBA tip-off show on WagerTalk TV, and then save and start the NBA season with a slam dunk deal.